whichever day it turns out to be when you watch this. For me, it's Friday. We're coming into the weekend. Doesn't really matter a lot because the kind of work I do happens any of 7 days a week. And on Sundays, I'm always busy at least a good part of the day with our spiritual center there, Creative Life Spiritual Center in Spring, Texas. You may get interrupted now and again because my nose has been running on and off, sometimes more on than off for the past couple of days. So you may see me reaching for a tissue, which are over here to my left. Maybe it's your right on there. I don't know. But I can assure you of this, whatever I've got, you won't catch it over the internet. And I don't know if it's catching or not, but I do know one thing. It is not COVID. My wife insisted I take another COVID test today. I took one 4 days ago. She insisted I take one today. We went out, bought some COVID test kits from, I guess I shouldn't say, one of the pharmacies, and came back, tested it, and it came back negative again. So I am working under the assumption I don't have COVID since I've taken 2 tests and they were both negative. How does that affect my reading? Well, it really doesn't. Just another quick word about the class that's starting on Monday. Some people have been asking if it's about prayer, what do we charge? And just a reminder that we said before that, these classes have to be put together. We have to get equipment to do them. And also, we believe, like it says in the Bible, that a workman is worth their wages. And we have to spend time preparing. We have to spend time teaching the classes, and as either ministers or practitioners of this, we it's our job. It's a good part of our job. So, we don't get paid a full salary or anything by our spiritual center only. Well, anyway, so one way that the center recompenses us is to allow us to put these classes on, and then we get some money back from them. So, and it's much more than just simple prayer. It's actually a different way of looking at life. So if you're wondering about it, then, as I said, the book that accompanies it is talking about the 5 steps to freedom. And it really is about the 5 steps to freedom. Excuse me. Anyway, I apologize when I got to keep reaching for tissues, but there we are then. And I'm sure you understand. You've all been through this. You all know what it's like. And as I said, the good news is both COVID tests came back negative, so that's kind of cool. Enough said about that. Let's get on with the message for today, which is, once again, of course, from Reverend Josh Reeves from Mile High Church in Lakewood, I was going to say California, Colorado, which is just outside of Denver. Kind of like the Woodlands is a suburb of Houston. The first quote is from Confucius, or Konfutsu if you prefer, and it's called the whole thing is called Missing the Bullseye. In the archer, there is a resemblance to the mature person. When he or she misses the bullseye, they turn and seek the reason for their failure within themselves. And from Ernest Holmes in Richer Living on page 3, he says, no matter what the negations of yesterday may have been, the affirmations of today may rise triumphant and transcendent over them. Don't live in the past. Use the past as learning. Live in the present with an eye to the future. Now here is Josh Reeves again. I have a center to my life I try to hit every day. I ask myself, did I choose love over blame? Did I choose compassion over grievance? Did I choose truth over superficiality? He says, some days I hit a bullseye. Some days I miss my target. Those days when I miss, I remind myself the importance of not blaming other people for that. Chuang Tzu wrote, this is a quote that I'm familiar with because we have several books in our toilet. We have toilet readers. I'm sure lots of people do. And one of them is 365 days of the year. And there's a different little piece or a saying in from gurus from all over the planet, including Chuang Tzu, Confucius, Jesus, Buddha, you name it. So Chuang Tzu said, if a man or a woman, I guess, is crossing a river and an empty boat collides with their own skiff, even though they may be a bad-tempered person, they won't become angry. But if they see a person in the boat that's hitting them, they'll shout at them to steer clear. Yet if the boat were empty, they wouldn't be shouting and they wouldn't be angry. In other words, we tend to focus on people when we're throwing our blame at them. In a similar way, when we blame others, we lose track of where our own boat is going. We lose our direction, we lose our purpose, and we lose our composure. We make the obstruction our focus, and in that we miss every time. Hitting the bullseye requires focus and not aim. What am I focused on today? Love, compassion, truthfulness. Those are the arrows in my quiver. This is Reverend George. Or something obstructs my way, he says. I turn back to myself. Do I want to be angry, or do I want to get what I want? Do I want to become who I don't want to be in this circumstance, or can I choose it to become even that much more of who I already am? He says, shoot, I missed again. Thank you, God. I have another opportunity to practice. Let's face it, we all play the blame game. As I mentioned, was it yesterday or the day before, in the Garden of Eden, in the story, which most people would say is not factual, but it's still true because it tells the truth. When Adam eats from the apple and God accuses him of this, then he turns around and passes the buck, not only to Eve, but also back to God again, because he says, the woman you gave me, she made me do it. And then he passes the buck to the serpent. And as we said the other day, the serpent's got nobody else to pass the buck back to. It's human nature. We all try to pass the buck. Why? Because we don't like to accept blame for ourselves. My wife and I have come up with a good thing. It doesn't entirely solve this, but it actually stops us playing the blame game. And what we'll do is, if one of us makes a mistake and the other one, it's necessary to point it out to the other one. Sometimes you might do it when it isn't necessary, but typically when it's necessary, there's a good valid reason for pointing it out. Instead of saying, oh, you did this or you did that, we'll use the passive voice and say, it was done, it was spoken, it was said. You know, it was mistakenly done this. So in other words, it doesn't do the you thing. It takes the you thing out of the equation. And when we do it ourselves, it becomes even more apparent that we just need to own up and accept it. It's hard. I mean, lots and lots of things in life, as we said before, they're simple, but they're not easy. I mean, it's a simple thing to say, hey, that was my fault. But it's not necessarily easy, especially if it's something that's serious. It really isn't. And our justice system and our system in general really doesn't often acknowledge the fact that how brave people are when they own up to something that they've done that is wrong. No, it turns around and it punishes them. You know, there's a wacky thing really about justice, quote unquote, and I'm talking about mainly criminal justice, that we tend to judge people on the outcome of what was going on. I'll give you, for instance, if somebody tries to kill somebody and it doesn't work, they're treated completely differently than if it had succeeded. It's a completely different story. But let's face it, the act and the intent are no different. So why does our justice system treat somebody who tries to commit murder and fails differently than somebody who tries to commit murder and succeeds? I don't know. But getting back to what Reverend Josh Reeves is talking about, there's something really freeing about admitting that we made a mistake. And guess what? When we admit that we made a mistake, it gives us the opportunity to learn and to grow. Because if I admit I did something, I feel really good about myself. If I try and blame somebody else for it, and yet deep down I know it's my fault, I don't feel good about myself. So this is what I'm getting out of this. And by the way, I don't want to tempt favor. My nose hasn't run again yet. So that's really more or less all I got to say about this. I think it's pretty clear. The end of the day is, how would you like to feel about yourself afterwards? I think it's really incredibly freeing to be able to own up to something, because whatever the consequence is, inside you feel really good when you admit, hey, that was my fault. Do you agree? Do you not agree? That's my take on this. I really don't have a whole lot more to say. Why? Because, to be honest, concentrating for a while today it's difficult, but I can do it, and I'm doing it. Take a deep breath. Let it go slowly. So next time something comes up and you get the opportunity to say, either to yourself or to somebody else or to a group, yep, that was my fault, I admit it. I'll bet you, even if they don't say it out loud, if it's in a group, that people really respect you. And oftentimes they won't say it out loud because of peer pressure, but I'll bet you inside, almost everybody, when somebody says, it was my fault, they feel really good about that person. And when you do that yourself, you should feel really good about yourself. And the affirmation is just helping us along the way. It says, today my focus is my compassion. My aim is my truth. My direction is love. My focus is my compassion. My aim is my truth. And my direction is my love. Doesn't really get much better, does it? Reverend Lisa will be on tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. All things being equal, I'll be back tomorrow evening around about 5 o'clock. And then on Sunday, we'll be broadcasting from Creative Life Spiritual Center. And I have the honor of giving the talk this coming Sunday, sermon, homily, whatever you want to call it. And it's based kind of based on Henry David Thoreau, because he's the author of the month at our spiritual center. So all three talks, three by Reverend Jesse and the one by myself, are kind of based on Henry David Thoreau, but I got some really good advice, which I'm going to give to everybody. So if you want to know what that is, tune in on Sunday. Just go to Creative Life Spiritual Center's Facebook page, and it will be there. And if you miss it at 11 because you're somewhere else, well, it's going to be recorded, and you can watch it, and I can watch it, and I can say, I like what I said there, or, nah, David, really, you could have put it another way, or, yeah, maybe. Why do I do this? Because I want to learn. My wife often plays back these recordings, and I can hear them. And when I do, I think, yeah, that was a good point I made there. I'm not sure how clear that was. Well, that could probably do with some brushing up. But it teaches me, I learn, and I hope I keep learning. Like all of you, I hope I keep learning, and I hope that in reality, my focus is my compassion, my aim is my truth, and my direction is love. So in love, in joy, in peace, in compassion, in harmony, namaste.